Okay, one Chicago family. Let's just all take a deep collective breath together. Are you okay? Because after what we just witnessed, I think it's safe to say none of us are okay. We tune in every week prepared for chaos. We expect roaring infernos, harrowing rescues from twisted metal, and the kind of life or death situations that have our hearts pounding in our chests. That's the job. That's the world of Firehouse 51. But sometimes the most terrifying emergencies aren't the ones with sirens and flashing lights. Sometimes they're the silent ones that creep into the quiet moments at home. And that's exactly what just shattered the world of Stella Kidd and Kelly Severide. Tonight, we were hit with a storyline so raw, so deeply human and terrifying, that it made a 5-alarm warehouse fire feel like a minor inconvenience. We saw Stella Kidd, our brilliant, trailblazing lieutenant, a woman who charges into burning buildings without a second thought, brought to her knees by the one thing she could never train for, a sick baby. Let's set the scene, because the whiplash is part of the pain. The episode started like any other. The bells rang, 51 rolled out, and our heroes did what they do best. There were probably moments of levity back at the firehouse, some classic Mouch wisdom, a little friendly banter between Gallo and Ritter. We even got one of those precious, all too brief Stella ride moments. A shared look, a quiet touch, a small glimpse into the domestic life they've built. A life that finally felt so full and so right. They'd fought so hard to get here, through fires both literal and metaphorical, and for a moment, everything was perfect. And then the shift ended. The uniforms came off. They went home, not as firefighters, but as mom and dad. And that's when the true emergency began. The scene was gut-wrenching in its simplicity and its terrifying relatability. It wasn't a dramatic collapse or a sudden explosion. It was a fever that wouldn't break, a cry that sounded just a little too weak, the kind of lethargy in their tiny baby that sends a cold spike of pure, unadulterated fear through any parent's heart. In an instant, the unflappable Lieutenant Kidd and the fearless Captain Severide vanished, replaced by two terrified parents, their world shrinking down to the flushed cheeks and labored breaths of their child. The frantic rush to Chicago Med was a blur of panic. For these two people who are the very definition of calm under pressure, who command scenes of utter chaos for a living, this was a different kind of helpless. You can't throw water on a fever. You can't cut a virus out of a tiny body with the jaws of life. All you can do is wait, and hope, and trust. And that vulnerability is a kind of terror they've never faced before. Watching Stella in that hospital waiting room was profoundly moving. We have watched this woman grow from a driven firefighter into a confident leader. We've seen her fight for her place, earn her rank, and command the respect of everyone around her. We've seen her stare down death and walk out of the flames. But here, stripped of her gear and her authority, she was just a mom, drowning in a sea of what-ifs. Every ounce of her strength, every bit of her focus was channeled into her child. The fire she was fighting now was internal, a raging inferno of fear, love, and a desperate, primal need to protect her baby. It was a powerful, heartbreaking reminder that behind the badge is a human heart, as fragile and as fierce as any other. And Severide. Oh, Kelly Severide. This is a man who has spent a lifetime building walls around his heart, a man who often communicates more with a brooding glance than with words. But fatherhood and his love for Stella chiseled away at those walls. Tonight, we saw them crumble completely. Seeing him stand by, unable to fix this, unable to use his strength or his skills to make it better, was devastating. The look on his face was one of pure anguish. He was the anchor trying to hold it all together for Stella, but we could see he was adrift himself. This is the man who walks through fire, and yet the sight of his own child in a hospital crib is the thing that truly broke him. This storyline hits so hard because it's a universal fear. It taps into the most fundamental human instinct, the drive to protect our children. It reminds us that no matter how strong or capable you are, life can render you powerless in a heartbeat. The heroes of Firehouse 51 face extraordinary dangers every day. But this crisis feels so much more personal, so much more terrifying, because it's so agonizingly ordinary. It could happen to anyone. It could happen to us. Of course, the Firehouse 51 family began to rally. You could feel it. The quiet phone calls, the concerned text messages. You just know that Herman, Mouch, Cruz, and Bowden would be there in a heartbeat, not as colleagues, but as the uncles and grandparents they have all become to this baby.